Wakey, wakey. Come on, mate. It's time to get up.
I'm awake. I'm awake. Oh.
Hi ladies and gentlemen, and today we'll be reviewing the FuriousFPV's Passado. But firstly, I have to say thank you to Steve and FuriousFPV for sending me the Passado and for being so patient with this review. So without a further ado, I present the Passado from FuriousFPV. The Passado is a 600 milliwatt 5.8g VTX and OSD all in one, and it has many features that you're going to like, such as the ability to power up your quad without turning on the Passado, which comes really handy when you don't want to disturb other people's feeds or when you crash and don't want to burn out the VTX. You can easily turn it off via an aux channel on your radio transmitter. It's also a great way of conserving power whenever you're flying line of sight. And the next feature is, of course, the ability to adjust PID settings on the go right there within your goggles or on your monitor. You can do that with every OSD. Oh yeah? Can you do this? Can you? Can you? No? No, you can't. No. Here I will show you how to wire everything up with an X-Racer F3 flight controller, but this will generally work with other flight controller boards as well. So firstly, we will cut and solder the positive and negative wires to the 12 volt regulated back on the Martech PDB, or you can also use battery voltage as the Passado can take 2 to 6 LiPos. And then we'll solder on the ground and TX and RX wires onto UR2. However, I had it reversed here, so if you just reverse how I did it, then it will work. The other cables are for your FPV camera, so we'll join them up by cutting and soldering them together, and then plug it into the camera input on the Passado. And then finally, I have attached an external microphone. However, I had to find my own cable that had the right plug that would fit into the audio input. It didn't come with the Passado, so you're going to have to find your own if you want to have audio. And that's all the wiring you'll have to do to get the Passado up and running, but you still need to do some programming. Don't worry though, it's not like coding a computer or anything like that. It's just a few steps you'll need to do before we can get it all working correctly. And to do that, we'll be using the OSD serial pass-through. It's exactly like the hehe pass-through via Betaflight, but for the OSD. And it's quite simple and easy to access the OSD by doing these few easy steps. Joshua Bardwell explains it in much better detail, and I highly recommend his videos. And you can watch his video by clicking here. But I'll quickly show you how to do it here. So the first step is to go into Betaflight and go to the ports tab and enable UART2, because that's where we've put our Passado OSD on. Since the Passado came with MWOSD installed already, all we have to do now is go into the OSD and make some adjustments, and thanks to the Betaflight 3.1 serial pass-through, it has made the process a whole lot less tedious. Basically, if you have the OSD on UART2, then you would type in serial pass-through 1. Because in programming they count from 0, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So if your OSD is on UART1, you would type in serial pass-through 0, and then hit enter. Then plug in your battery, and now hit the disconnect button, and then open up MWOSD and select the port. Then it will connect and read your current settings. Make sure you don't have the MWOSD app open before you do this in CLI, otherwise it won't work. As for the OSD settings, I just followed this guide. But go to the second half of the video because MWOSD is already installed, so the first part isn't relevant. But I'd suggest you adjust the location of each element on the OSD screen in the layouts option to make everything viewable and aligned correctly in the goggles. Also, you may need to adjust your settings for the voltage readout by using a voltage meter, but I just kept everything with stock settings and everything seemed to be correct. I'm using 3S batteries mostly. The last step you need to do is setting up an aux channel on your RC transmitter, in my case a Tyrannus, to be able to turn on and off the Passado with a flick of a switch. I think it's safe to assume that you already know how to do that, but for those who need to jog their memories, You'll also need to go into the OSD menu and assign the switch that you have just made, and you can also change the VTX channel and band from here as well. To select channels, you're going to need to hold down the button for 3 seconds until the green LED turn off and then blue LED flashes. Then you can select channels by doing a short press. Then to save and exit, just press the button for 5 seconds until 2 LEDs flashes. While you are in the channel select mode, press and hold down the button for 3 seconds until the blue LED turns off and green LED turn on, and once it finishes flashing, you can then short press the button to change band. You can save and exit by pressing and holding down for 5 seconds until both LED flashes. There's a complete diagram and frequency table and more information in the official manual that you can download at FuriousFPV. The link will be in the description. To activate and get into the OSD on your goggles or monitor, you have to move your throttle stick to the right and also pitch forward all the way. You must do this together at the same time. Once you're in the OSD, to move, you use pitch and roll. And to make changes, your left or right. And then save and exit when you're done. So here's some footage of the Passado in action on board my XPX, and we'll see how well the VTX performs in comparison to this King Kong 600mW VTX. So on the left is my RD210 with the King Kong, and on the right is the Passado on board my XPX. These were recorded separately on my DVR that is located inside my house next to my front window, and I kept the same antenna for both quads to try and keep the same test conditions for both VTX. Now I know this is not the best way to test the VTXs. I would have liked to do this test with just one quad and swapping out the VTX only, but it should give you some kind of idea of the performance. Let's hear some of my thoughts on the Passado to conclude this review. I had a great time with the Passado. It made the experience more convenient and less hassle, what with the VTX on and off switch via an aux channel on my Tyrannus, and the serial pass-through that let me access the OSD without having to bring out the FTDI utility. It's a great feature if you're on the latest Betaflight firmware and have an external MWOSD like the Passado. There's a few things I think they can improve on for the next version. For instance, a UFL connector instead of having the antenna soldered onto the VTX. It will be so much easier to handle because, as you can see, the pigtail took up a lot of room and made it tricky to mount at times. I think the model they sent me is of an older version, and I believe the newer versions do come with a UFL connector. Also, a digital display would be nice to have, so it's quicker and easier to read. And why not make it a switchable VTX? That would be awesome to have the choice depending on the situation. Instead of having a pinout for the audio, why not just get rid of that and put a mic right on the board itself? It means there'll be less wires and clutter, and not to mention less weight, which is a good thing. And possibly make a non-stackable version as well. Having another option would be nice because sometimes space is very limited, and it would have been great to have the ability to mount the Passado somewhere other than the main stack. But to be fair, I had a separate FC and P2B which made the stack high enough already. The Passado suits a quad that have an all-in-one FC, like the Combini. Of course, it was made for that FC. But this demonstrates that the Passado is just as viable on any flight controller, but just make sure you have plenty of space for the stack or you'll end up like me, just barely making it. And it certainly made the build interesting and challenging, which is just perfect for someone like me, a DIYer's dream. So in the end, would I recommend this to someone? Yes, totally. I don't really have any negative things to say about this product. The experience was a positive one, and it did what it was supposed to, and did a great job of it as well. It's a high quality VTX/OSD and is totally worth it. Once you have tried it, it will be very hard to look back, and I'll be considering whether to include it on my future builds. This was my first attempt at doing a video like this. Something more like a how-to or tutorial video. Good or bad, let me know how I've done in the comments. But the good thing is, it can only get better from here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. This has been an Ablazing review.